Okay, we'll try that again. So I'm coming today from my garden to just kind of talk about faith and open doors and following your dreams, and maybe more than your dreams, but more of the heart's desire that God gives us sometimes. And there's always a difference between just kind of wanting, like want, and for maybe selfish reasons, or even sometimes for not selfish reasons, and something that the Lord has placed in your heart. I am a believer, I'm a Christian, and I have to say that it's the only thing that has kind of kept me going in this journey of farming and homesteading, growing our own food and just having animals and plants, and just starting this just very different journey than we've ever been really used to. And without him, those things would not have been a possibility. And I was sitting down thinking about really just how hard it is to share your dreams or desires with others, because not everyone will have the opinion that you want to hear. And I think that sometimes that's good, and I think that sometimes that's not so good. I apologize for the wind. It's very windy today, so I hope you can hear me. So I was writing some things down, and obviously those heart's desires were given to us by our Creator. But I was thinking about when it was for me that God placed that seed in my heart. And I have to say it's kind of all over the place, because I remember part of my dream includes a lot of things. It includes children, it includes obviously farm related things, and animals and land. So it was all in very different stages. But growing up an only child obviously led me to the desire of having lots of children. So there's that. As far as land goes, I remember growing up and us moving around a lot. And though sometimes it was exciting and fun, other times not so much, to have to, change another school or try to make new friends or things like that was very difficult for me in particular. And I remember thinking, I want something different. I want to plant some roots, deep in the ground, and show them something very different, something much more stable. And on the contrary, it was the exact same thing for us for many, many years, of just moving a lot, almost every year. Different jobs, moving for other people, moving for the right reasons, the wrong reasons, and everything in between. And, kind of just still pleading with God, like, almost in a reckless manner, that I really wanted this, and I just needed to have it, and it wasn't the right time. And no one necessarily was saying no at that time, just that no, it didn't happen. And I remember thinking, man, it'd be so neat to have, farm animals and things like that. And I've always liked farm animals. And, we were able to have some pet chickens, when we were first starting out, and that didn't work out. But that itch for the farm, for, going back to where our food comes from, and just being closer to God, just via nature and His creations, was just something that I had deep inside that I could just not shake off. And we spent many years praying and desiring and wishing and writing, and pros and cons and all those things, and reading books and anything that we could on those subjects. And I remember when one of our daughters was diagnosed with epilepsy abruptly, after a certain vaccine, and I'm not going to get into that right now. It basically just led us down this rabbit hole of how can we help her? How can we make this better? And it kept leading back to two things, to Christ and to food. And we struggled very hardly to be able to afford all the natural foods and everything without chemicals. And we tried really hard to do the ketogenic diet and all these things. And I was just like, it's almost as if the system sets you up for failure. It's like you're rewarded for all the negative, whether you're unable to pay for something, whether you're in a low income situation, which we have been, and you're rewarded for that, but you're almost not allowed to get anything that's good for you. And yet it just didn't make sense to me. So we went all over the place with that situation, and my heart was just grieving for my child, grieving for the situation, and whether financially or whatever, and just saying, I want this so desperately, and it just wasn't happening. And jump many years later, I think I just was starting to share a bit more openly my dreams and desires with some fellow friends and brothers and sisters in Christ. And the response was not what I wanted to hear. It was not supportive, and it wasn't just with them, it was with other people too, other friends and family. And it wasn't supportive, it wasn't encouraging, it was more of like a tear down. It was, you've got this dream and it just doesn't make any sense to us, so we're going to tell you why. And one of the most predominant things that I remember was speaking to a close friend from church, and her stating, well, you're not a farmer and your husband's not a farmer, he is this and you are that. And just looking at her smug grin face just made me know and realize that sometimes it really is better to keep your desires and dreams and prayers to yourself, because I think it just makes the journey, it makes it a bit harder. But I don't regret it. I'm glad, because that kind of pushed me to kind of go the opposite direction. In this life, there are many things that you can do and be. There's nothing that says you have to be this one thing, and because you are this one thing, then you're just unable to do anything else. Whether it's, with women, oh, you have to have this career and you have to go to college and you have to do this. And no, you can absolutely do all those things, but the truth is there really aren't that many people doing careers. There's just a lot of jobs and a lot of people doing different things that they think that they're supposed to do, and a lot of them have forgotten their dreams and desires. And those things can absolutely be achieved if the desire is great enough. And so that opposition kind of made me want it more, but not just wanting it more, but also as to prove them wrong, because I've always been that, if you tell me one thing, I'm gonna tell you the other thing. Hey, doctor. And I was just so angry inside, and I was like, well, I'm just kind of done with this, and I'm just gonna pray. And we had moved into an RV to save money and to just kind of follow this dream. And as soon as we moved into this RV, things started to get a little tougher. My husband lost one of his biggest company jobs that he had at the time, and we were just actually finding out that I was pregnant with my sixth child. And I was like, how are we gonna do this? How is this gonna happen? If we've lost a big you know, we've lost a big job and now we're having another child, you know, how are we going to get this done? And, you know, after being there for about 9 months, I realized I could no longer stay in the RV as big as I was, and it was just very tiring. We decided to rent an apartment, and it was more like a little townhouse, or I don't know. It was like, I don't know what you want to call it. We rented a small space, and I was able to have my son at home, and everything was okay, but I was still thinking about that, and I was like, how do we get out of here? You know, we went from, you know, starting this journey, you know, leaving a townhouse and a good job to going into the RV lifestyle, and no, not glamping. I mean, really RV lifestyle, dealing with big issues, you know, that happen in RV life, and to going now to a smaller place, but not in the best of neighborhoods, just because that's all we could afford. And me thinking, no, this is just, it's not it. This is not his plan for our life. And I just decided then and there that things had to change, and I couldn't just hope and wish and pray and beg, you know, desperately. I had to do something. And obviously everybody's different, but I just decided to pack. So, sorry. So I just, you know, felt in my heart and soul that we were not meant to be there, and we had to go. We had no idea where we were gonna go. Chris had no job. I mean, he had a job, but it was not, he was doing a lot of consulting work. And there was just, we had no way of knowing where we were going to go and what we were going to do. And to not get into too many details, I just prayed. And I prayed and I prayed and I prayed, and I packed. And we got a call from someone that he had done business with. And they're like, hey, we need your help. Can you come on up here and, you know, help us out? And so we took I think it was like a 4 or 5 hour drive, from probably 5, from where we were to Central Florida, a little north of Central Florida. And, you know, he had to go do this job, and I had just had the baby, and I was like, well, you know, what am I supposed to do? So me and the kids just drove around, and, you know, we had fun in the hotel. We were just, and when he was done at work, we would all go driving. And I was like, wow, this place is just gorgeous. And not necessarily where he was working, but everything, you know, a little further away. I go, this is the place. This is where we have to be. And it was such a weird feeling, because there was no way that we were going to get there. There was no money. There was no job. There was no home. It was barely a car to get us up here. And actually, that reminds me, on our way up here, a friend from church had given us a gas card, and she's like, oh, here, I think, you know, if you guys ever need this, you know, we just wanted to give this to you. So with that gas card, it took us up here to this area where we live now, and I just fell in love, and I was like, this is the place, like, I know it, this is where we're supposed to be. And he came back, I think it was, I don't know, a few more times where we stayed at the hotel, and God was moving, but we, you know, we didn't know which way or how, and we applied at a condominium, and we got denied. And then another time he was paid, and we went to go cash his check because we didn't have a bank here, and his money was stolen from the hotel lobby. And I just threw my face flat down on that hotel floor and just prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed, and it was filthy, and I did not care. I just knew that God had a plan, and we were gonna get there even though there was opposition. So thank God the money was eventually returned, and that was another step. And then we went a little further into a little tiny town, which is the town that we live in now, and we found a home that was for rent, and we put our application and we just prayed and left it into God's hands, and thank goodness we were accepted. And that's where we spent the first 18 months of this new life here in Center Hill, Florida. And it was awesome. It was just, everything was just so beautiful, and what seemed, really perfect. But things, still were kind of a little rocky, but I still started to plant things, and I had my first real flock of chickens here, and we got our first goat, which was a total disaster. I totally speak against it every time that I can, but we did start having little farm animals here and there. But just almost at that 2-year mark, we were still praying hard because we didn't have our own land. And it was still a desire to own something, and this wasn't owned, it was a rental. And my husband kept passing by a little property, and he was like, man, that's a place, I think that's where we need to go, and that's where we're gonna, I think that's a good idea. And I was like, I don't know, that looks kind of weird. And he's like, come on, let's just go check it out one day. And he got the permission from the landowner to come check it out. And I was like, this just looks weird. It kind of had the shape of a triangle in a way. Like, it wasn't like a full rectangle in my spectrum as I was looking at it. And I was like, I don't know, but if this is where you think, we need to be, then, this is what we're going to pray about. And, we prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed. And while this was going on, the landlord wanted to cancel our lease because the house had, a million issues, and it was kind of, I think, a liability if we would have stayed there. So a lot of things are happening as that's going on, and I had a soaping conference to go to, and my husband texts me while I'm there, and he's like, this is gonna work out, we're gonna be able to do this. And I was really shocked because we had, zero of the things that, society tells us that we need, and maybe we do, I'm not gonna go there, but it was, we had zero credit, zero money. I mean, it was just like 0, 0, 0, 0, but somehow God was gonna place us here. And that's so important, because sometimes everything is telling you no, and people are telling you no, and you mistake that for God saying no, or God closing the door. And it's really not that. It's not God. It's it's the Laura or the Bob, or they're the ones that said no, not God. It's just them. And it discourages you, and it makes you want to quit and want to give up. And that's the total opposite of what I'm trying to share here today, is that God is good, and He loves us and cares for us, and He really does want to fulfill those desires of our heart, and I'm not talking about using Him as some sort of genie to give you whatever wish you desire, because that's completely farce of who He is and His character, but about fulfilling the things that He's placed there and seeing them through. And it's so important that you don't give up, that you keep on fighting, that you try your best to ignore and just kind of push away and rebuke all those negative thoughts and comments and words that people will say to kind of push you away from doing the things that you have a desire for, that are meant for good. And I don't know, I don't know how to explain it. I don't have the words for it right now, but the point is that while I was gone, He said, it's ours. We've just, purchased our own land. And I was just so in awe that I just kind of stopped everything that I was doing, and I was just kind of blank for a few minutes. And And when I came back, that I just realized that this piece of property that was a blank slate for the most part was now going to be ours. And I mean, in the end, nothing's really ours, but this was going to be ours, and we were going to be able to put some roots, even if those roots may not be forever. That we were still going to be able to do that. And I just want to encourage everyone that, man, I am literally living a big chunk of my dream. Huge chunk. Almost 99% of my dream right now is being lived out. And no, it's not easy. It's actually sometimes very hard. It's well, the word that comes to mind is a word that I had in one of my dreams, and it's an undeserved storm. Sometimes we are in a storm and it's gonna rain. It rains on the just and the unjust, and really the only difference is that for believers we have an army and a king by our side that he's already won the battle for us, and we just have to kind of rest and trust in his promises and his word and just walk with him. And I know that right now this is, maybe really hard to believe, or maybe it feels unattainable for many people. And I'm not saying that, my dream is your dream, or, whatever. Everyone has different dreams and desires and just, things inside of us that we want to accomplish, apart from whether it's farming or not. Anything that you want to do, I don't think that you should let anything hold you back, whether it's not having the qualified education or the right things. Like, this world is going to tell us a lot of things. It's every day telling us something, whether it's through the news or through social media or through other people, through actors, actresses, through the entertainment world. You're being fed and thrown things on a daily. Our kids are being fed things on a daily, and it doesn't have to be those things. We can step off of the conveyor belt, on our way to the slaughter. We can step off of that, and we could try to warn other people and push them off of that so that they don't go down that route. And you could do whatever you can to step outside of the line and the mold, and still be able to dream and love fiercely and do the things that your heart desires. But we have to do it in God's timing, not our own. And I think that's one of the hardest things to really grasp. And as a homesteader and a farmer, I have been learning that the hard way. And that is that it's really not my timing. It's the Lord's timing. It's me putting down a seed and watering it and giving it nutrients and sunshine if it needs it, and just waiting and hoping that this seed will produce a plant that hopefully one day will produce fruit, and within that fruit, that will also produce more life and more seed in abundance. And that's how we should be. We should be very patient. We should be planted in the right things and in the right way, and have the sun in our hearts and just grow and be anchored. But life is going to throw us weeds, and it's going to throw us natural disasters and human disasters and elements that just don't make sense. And I'm telling you that I'm only sharing a very short part of this journey and this story, because once we got here to this blessing that God gave us, turmoil hit. And that's going to have to be a totally other video. But we're still here, and we're doing our best to grow and to stay anchored in His word and His promises. And I hope and I pray that somebody that needed to hear any of this, may understand that, you are loved and cared for, and you can very well pray and do and have faith and all those things, and be successful. You don't have to have, you know, a degree in every different thing, or, you know, you just have to have this desire to learn and just try. And if you fail, that's okay. Failing is great, because, you know, you could change it up, you can try something different, you could, you know, grow in a different spot. And I mean that both for plants and for people. Just because it didn't work out in one way, it could work out a different way. You don't have to give up. You can keep on, and, you know, just don't give up. Don't surrender. And I don't know, but it's attainable, and you can do it. We're here, and it's still a journey. We're not done, and it's hard work, but it's so rewarding. And I mean, there's just so much beauty in the garden, and in the livestock, and in the journey, and the process of having that much patience and faith. There's a fight. One of my kids is screaming. Okay, I'll have to deal with that very soon. But God's won the battle, and you guys can do it. So I hope I didn't ramble too long, and I'll probably talk about the other part of the hardship when we got here in another video. Thanks for watching, guys. God bless you. Did I do this right? Let me see. No, I didn't. Wow. Okay. How do we turn this thing off?